The Lord High Steward of Ireland is a hereditary Great Officer of State in the United Kingdom, sometimes known as the Hereditary Great Seneschal. The Earls of Shrewsbury have held the office since the 15th century. Although the Irish Free State, later the State of Ireland, became independent in 1922, the title remained the same, rather than reflecting the region of Northern Ireland, which remains within the United Kingdom. The first Earl of Shrewsbury was created Earl of Waterford and Lord High Steward of Ireland on 17 July 1446 by letters patent of King Henry VI. The current Lord High Steward is his heir, the 22nd Earl of Shrewsbury. It was the Lord High Steward of Ireland, the Earl of Shrewsbury, who performed the responsibility of the Curtana, and carrying the sword of state at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in June 1953. 4 swords of state are used, and the Lord High Steward of Ireland carries one of these, the Sword of Mercy, which has a blunt tip, and is called thus the Curtana. The others of the swords respectively of spiritual justice, and of temporal justice, and the Great Sword of State, or the Sword of Offering. The Curtana is also known as the Sword of King Edward the Confessor. Contrast with offices in England of Scotland. The Lord High Steward of England ceased to be hereditary. For example, it was conferred on the Duke of Northumberland for the coronation in 1911. It is considered the first of the great offices of state, and a supreme judge in Parliament. The Lord High Steward walks in front of the new sovereign, carrying the crown of St. Edward, on a velvet cushion. He wears robes of white satin and gold undergarment, with a long red mantle and ermine tippet. The Lord High Steward of Scotland is the Prince of Scotland, as Duke of Rothesay, who is also currently the Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall. Given this prince's other responsibilities, at the last 2 coronations the Earl of Crawford was appointed as deputy to officiate in his stead. The Lord High Steward of Ireland is a hereditary position, vested historically in the Earl of Shrewsbury, but in other respects largely analogous to that of England, as determined by the Attorney General in 1862. The historical background to that was the office of the Lord High Steward, a Great Seneschal of Ireland, granted to Sir Bertram de Verdun by King Henry II. Lynch devotes a detailed section of his book on feudal dignities to this office and hereditary title, and to its descent. The hereditary nature of the office. Blackstone observes that there are offices consisting of a right to exercise a public or private employment, along with the fees and emoluments thereunto belonging, that are also incorporeal hereditaments, i.e. heritable. Examples include certain royal offices, such as the Lord High Steward of Ireland. The holder may have an estate in them, and to him and his heirs. Other offices may be for life or for a term of years. In his work, Lynch devotes a chapter to such incorporeal hereditaments as honorary hereditary offices. He describes the dignity of Lord Constable conferred on Hugh de Lacy by original grant in 1185 of Meath. The Lord Constable of Ireland, originally vested with lands to which it was incident or annexed, and which descended through Walter's son Gilbert de Lacy to John de Verdun by virtue of his moiety of Meath. By 1460, the lands to which it had been incident vested in Lord Theobald de Verdun's co-heirs in 1460, and, according to Lynch, the exercise of the office fell into desuetude. However, it can be seen elsewhere that the Lord High Stewardship continued to be inherited by the Earls of Shrewsbury. In letters of appointment dated the 27th of August in the 28th year of King Henry VI, the first Earl of Shrewsbury, who was also the Lord High Steward, a Great Seneschal of Ireland, appointed John Pennington to be Steward of the Liberty of Waterford, and in such appointment, the Earl is described as Senescalis ac Constabularius Hiberniae. Further examples continue, such as the case of the 4th Earl of Shrewsbury, confirmed in an inquisition later in 1624, and recalled in a case before the House of Lords in 1862, dealing with the Lord High Stewardship of Ireland. Such appointments by the Lords Shrewsbury of stewards of counties in Ireland were upheld by the House of Lords as proof of the exercise of the prerogatives of the Lord High Steward of Ireland. Furthermore, it was in his inherited capacity as Lord High Steward of Ireland that the 4th Earl of Shrewsbury, George Talbot, assisted at the coronation of King Henry VII in 1485. The 12th Earl, in the same capacity as Lord High Steward of Ireland, assisted at the coronation of King James II in 1685. In both of these cases, the Lord High Steward carried the curtana. Lapses in hereditary exercise of the office due to the penal laws. For the time of King Henry VI, no English monarch was in Ireland until the visit of King George IV in 1821. There was therefore during that period few if any occasion where the Earls of Shrewsbury could have exercised the duties of their office as Lords High Stewards of Ireland, about the person of the sovereign, as the Earls of Shrewsbury were at one time Roman Catholics. Prior to Catholic emancipation in Ireland, in 1829, they were prevented from effectively performing the judicial role of Lord High Steward. Hence, for example, in 1739, Lord Wyndham was 8 times one of the Lord Justices of Ireland, and officiated as Lord High Steward of Ireland in the trial of Lord Santry for murder and treason, being the first trial of a lord by his peers in the Kingdom of Ireland. Baron Wyndham of Finglas surrendered the offices of Lord Justice at his own request in 1739 on account of his ill health. The next trial of a peer was that of Nicholas, 5th Viscount Netterville, for murder in 1743, when Robert Jocelyn, 1st Viscount Jocelyn, presided as the acting Lord High Steward. The same ceremonials as for the trial of Lord Santry were used, but the case collapsed when the two principal witnesses died. When the assembled peers judged Lord Netterville therefore not guilty, the Lord High Steward broke the white wand and adjourned the House. The third case of a trial of a peer in Ireland by his peers was the trial of Robert II, Earl of Kingston, in May 1798, for the murder of a Henry Gerald Fitzgerald, the illegitimate son of his brother-in-law. In the absence of witnesses for the prosecution, he was found not guilty, and the Lord High Steward thereupon broke his wand of office. On that occasion, the duties of the Lord High Steward were discharged by John Fitzgibbon, the 1st Earl of Clare, who was also the Lord Chancellor of Ireland. Resumption upon Catholic emancipation. It was only after the Roman Catholic Relief Act 1829 that John XVI, Earl of Shrewsbury, could take his seat in Parliament, recognizing the Earl's claim to the Lord High Stewardship. King William IV was pleased to respond to his petition and grant to the Earl the privileges inherent in the Lord High Stewardship, namely wearing the court uniform, and having access to the King's leve equities by means of the private intrigue, and of using the same upon other customary occasions. The same continuity of lineal succession and right was also upheld in the case of the Chief Sergeantcy of Ireland, when it was found that neither a period of adverse possession, nor non-usa nor misusa, was held valid against the legitimate and upheld claim of the lineal heir, Walter Crowes, of the first grantee. Centuries later, as decreed and adjudged on the 13th of November in the 5th year of the reign of King Edward VI, and as recorded in Lynch's Feudal Dignities. Hence, the Earl of Shrewsbury subsequently took his place as Lord High Steward of Ireland, amongst the high officers of state at the funeral of King William IV, when Queen Victoria also appointed him to carry the banner of Ireland. Subsequently, his precedence over the Dukes of England as hereditary Lord High Steward of Ireland was established in the table of precedency prepared in the Herald's office and approved by Earl de Grey in his capacity as Lord Lieutenant of Ireland in 1843, and similarly by the Earl of Eglinton as Lord Lieutenant of Ireland in 1858. On the 1st of August 1862, the House of Lords made an order to confirm the right of the then Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford, and Earl Talbot Henry John, to the office of Lord High Steward of Ireland. White Wand of Office. Sir John Talbot took part in the installation of the Prince of Wales as a Knight of St Patrick at St Patrick's Cathedral, Dublin on the 18th of April 1868. On the 15th of September 1871, Queen Victoria granted to Charles John Chetwynd Talbot, Earl of Shrewsbury, etc., that he and the heirs male of his body, being Lords High Steward of Ireland, may carry a white wand when appearing officially in Ireland and when attending state ceremonials, and be placed at such ceremonies according to the office of the Lord High Steward of Ireland. Accordingly, and subsequently, a white wand was used at the coronations of subsequent Kings Edward VII in 1902 and King George V in 1911, and a later Earl, John George Charles Henry Alton Alexander Chetwynd Talbot carried a white wand at the coronation of King George VI in 1937. The significance of the white wand can be found in its representation of the supreme judicial functions of the Lord High Steward, having been used by Baron Wyndham of Finglas in his interim capacity as acting Lord High Steward for the trial of Henry Barry, 4th Baron Barry of Santry. On that occasion the customary gentleman usher of the Black Rod bore a white wand, instead of black, for the Lord High Steward. Lord Santry was pardoned, and fled to England where he died. Therein lies the significance of the white wand. It is a rod of office, and the commission appointing a temporary Lord High Steward is dissolved according to custom by breaking the rod. This is also the customary practice for the Lord High Steward when operative in England. However, the Earl of Shrewsbury, holding the Lord High Stewardship on a hereditary basis, can retain the rod, and hence Queen Victoria's authorization that it be used at state ceremonials. The white wand is also significant in the Gaelic Brehon tradition of the inauguration of ancient Irish kings. This is keenly observed in the inauguration of the O'Donnell, Prince of Tyrconnell. The significance of the white wand was described by Geoffrey Keating. It was the chronicler's function to place a wand in the hand of each lord on his inauguration, and on presenting the wand he made it known to the populace that the Lord a King need not take up arms thenceforth to keep his country in subjection, but that they should obey his wand as a scholar obeys his master. For, as the wise scholar obeys and is grateful to his master, in the same way subjects are bound to the kings. For it is with the wand of equity and justice he directs his subjects, and not with the edge of the weapon of injustice. Equally, in the baronage of Scotland, the wand of offices of a barony is also a white wand, associated with chiefship, and originally with the sceptre of the Scottish king, indicating also that the Scottish feudal baron is also a chef de famille, who reigns within his circle. A glimpse of the historic roles of Lord Stewards as seneschals can be obtained from the case of the inauguration of the O'Neill as Prince at Tulahooge. The O'Cahan would cast a gold sandal over the head of the O'Neill Prince-elect, while the O'Hagan, Baron of Tulahooge, who was O'Neill's steward and justiciary for Tyrone, would present a straight wand, and then fasten the sandal to the prince's foot. The Lord High Steward has also been known as the Great Seneschal of Ireland, as mentioned earlier. It should be noted also that seneschal was also the term used in Ireland to denote the steward of a prescriptive barony, or manor, before whom the courtly view of frank pledge was held. More recently, the term seneschal was also apparently used to describe Donald Buckley as the Governor-General of the Irish Free State in 1932. The Court of the Lord High Steward. The Court of the Lord High Steward in England was first formally instituted in 1499 for the trial of Edward Plantagenet, 17th Earl of Warwick, and confirmed by Act of Parliament. A precedent for the appointment of a deputy to execute in his place the duties of an honorary hereditary officer of the Crown in Ireland is found in the licence from King John in 1220 for John Marshal, to appoint a deputy to him as Lord Marshal, as well as in England, Scotland, where the Earl of Crawford has deputised for the Lord High Steward of Scotland, who was Duke of Rotherhithe and Prince of Wales, and Scotland had another role to attend to, namely as heir apparent. The precedent for the appointment by the Lord High Steward of Ireland of a deputy as steward of a county is found in the case of the appointment by letters patent on the 27th of August in the 28th year of the reign of the Plantagenet King Henry VI of England by John, the first Earl of Shrewsbury, of John Pennington Esq. as steward of the Liberty of Wexford. This was acknowledged in evidence in the case lodged pursuant to the order of the House of Lords of 1 August 1862. The precedent for such a deputy, within the Court of the Lord High Steward, to be also appointed on a hereditary basis is found in the cases of the Grand Almoner of England, who is the Marquess of Exeter, the Grand Carver of England, who was the Earl of Denbigh and Desmond, and the Grand Falconer, who was the Duke of St. Albans. By precedent and analogy, therefore, the Lord High Steward of Ireland has been able to appoint deputies, designated stewards as seneschals for counties, and on a hereditary basis. Although this prerogative has not been exercised during the period of the penal laws, nor later in the absence of visits of the sovereign to Ireland, the Lord High Steward's prerogative remains intact, and has been invoked in some appointments in the 20th century. Such appointments of deputies by Lords High Stewards have been accepted in the past by the Court of Claims constituted at coronations, most recently in 1953. The function of deputy to the Lord High Steward, a Great Seneschal of Ireland, is discharged under a related appointment of office. The Lord Steward for Tyrconnell, by letters patent of the Lord High Steward, a Great Seneschal, explicitly by virtue of the royal authority vested in him, to the grantee, and specifically to hold to him and his primogeniture heirs forever. Lord High Stewards of Ireland 1446 present, 1446 to 1453, John Talbot, 1st Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1453 to 1460, John Talbot, 2nd Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1460 to 1473, John Talbot, 3rd Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1473 to 1538, George Talbot, 4th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1538 to 1560, Francis Talbot, 5th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1560 to 1590, George Talbot, 6th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1590 to 1616, Gilbert Talbot, 7th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1616 to 1617, Edward Talbot, 8th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1617 to 1630, George Talbot, 9th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1630 to 1654, John Talbot, 10th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1654 to 1667, Francis Talbot, 11th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1667 to 1718, Charles Talbot, 1st Duke of Shrewsbury, 12th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1718 to 1743, Gilbert Talbot, 13th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1743 to 1787, George Talbot, 14th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1787 to 1827, Charles Talbot, 15th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1827 to 1852, John Talbot, 16th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1852 to 1856, Bertram Arthur Talbot, 17th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1856 to 1868, Henry John Chetwynd Talbot, 18th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1868 to 1877, Charles John Chetwynd Talbot, 19th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1877 to 1921, Charles Henry John Chetwynd Talbot, 20th Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1921 to 1980, John George Charles Henry Alton Alexander Chetwynd Talbot, 21st Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. 1980 present, Charles Henry John Benedict Crofton Chetwynd Talbot, 22nd Earl of Shrewsbury and Waterford. Deputised Lord High Stewards of Ireland. The following were appointed to preside in the trials by the Irish House of Lords of Peers indicted for various crimes, and the ceremonial rolls were limited to those appertaining to the temporary judicial roll. 1739, Thomas Wyndham, 1st Baron Wyndham of Finglas. 1743, Robert Jocelyn, 1st Viscount Jocelyn. 1798, John Fitzgibbon, 1st Earl of Clare. See also Vice Great Seneschal of Ireland.